Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out on this beautiful spring evening in Colorado for a second public information meeting on an application of Radon to develop a data center at the Intel building at 1615 Garden of the Gods Road. I'm John Suthers, and I'm an advisor to Radon, and I'll be serving as the moderator of the meeting this evening. The purpose of this meeting is to provide a structured, respectful forum for community members to hear a brief Radon overview about the proposed project, and for you to ask questions of Radon or to ask questions of subject matter experts from the City of Colorado Springs and Colorado Springs Utilities. Mr. Jason Green, the founder and president of Radon, will update you on the project and answer lots of the questions that have been raised about this project. Our subject matter experts, as I indicated, will also be able to answer questions in their area of expertise, and I'd like to introduce them to you right now. First of all, Mr. Jason Green is the president and founder of Radon. Thank you, Jason. From the City of Colorado Springs, from the Water Division, is Ms. Abigail Ortega. From the Electric Division of Colorado Springs Utilities, Mr. Jared Miller. From the City of Colorado Springs, we have Mr. Kevin Walker, Director of Planning, who's prepared to talk about zoning and processes. And also Ms. Jessie Kimber, the Director of Economic Development for the City of Colorado Springs. Folks, the ground rules for this evening are really quite simple. Questions and comments should remain respectful, issue-focused, and related to the project, process, or community impacts. All attendees are expected to maintain appropriate decorum, including refraining from interruptions, personal attacks, disruptive behavior, foul language, and please, no side conversations so people can't hear the questions and answers. One person should speak at a time when a microphone is brought to you, and when we get to the question and answer phase, you can raise a hand, and there'll be 4 people with microphones that will come to you. The attendees should ask one question at a time, and if at all possible, please avoid repeating questions that have already been asked or answered so as many people as possible can participate. The moderator may direct questions to an appropriate expert on, for example, water or power or something like that. And any items requiring follow-up will be captured for response after the event. There's quite a bit of literature that's been placed on your chairs. 2 of the documents from Radon, one of them has a QR code in the corner, and you can go to use that QR code to access a great deal more information than even you'll hear tonight in regard to data centers and this particular project. We will end the meeting promptly at 7:30. And so with that, once again, thank you for being here. Let's make this a civil process that we can make our community proud of. And with that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Jason Green, founder and president of Radon. Jason?
Thank you. Everybody here all right? Just make sure it's loud enough. Okay. Last time we had kind of a karaoke machine type audio thing, so this is a little bit better. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about a number of updates since the last community meeting. We're going to talk about Radon as a business. We'll also talk about, obviously, very specifically, this project, why this project. We've seen the concerns. I personally answered all of the community questions. We are very involved. We've had a number of meetings with community members. We've met with community organizations. We've been involved for quite some time. And so that doesn't mean that I'm here to convince you of anything. Doesn't mean I'm here to sell anything per se. We're just going to speak factually about the work that we've done. So there's a lot that's gone into this, but we want to emphasize specifically is that we heard a lot at the last community meeting, and we listened, and that went into a number of the continued responses, engineering development plan work that the city is going to need to consider as we move forward and attempt to create this process and this project for everybody. So what you'll see on the screens is this is different than last time. Instead of doing just the town hall format, we're going to run through just some recap. It's going to take about 15, 20 minutes. Just bear with me as I run through those slides. It's going to hit the hot button topics. As we get through then the questions subsequent to that, everybody raise your hands, and then you'll have folks in the audience that'll ask questions. I'll be directing the majority of those responses, but then we've got the city officials that are subject matter experts. So I'll very likely reach out and say, okay, Colorado Springs Utility, please speak on this, and this given regard in this issue. So we'll get started, and we're going to go to the number one topic as we understand it, which is noise. So some things that we want to emphasize is that data centers, like any other mechanical project of any kind, meaning that there's actually things that are operating there, they create some noise. They do. When we first looked at this site, we'll go back a little bit in some history, is that this is not new to me. I walked this site back in 2009. My first project with Vantage Data Centers that I started in 2009 was an Intel campus. And so when you buy one Intel campus, they have you look at more. So we've been very familiar with this. We knew the residences were there. When we came back and looked at this starting about 2 years ago, that was a prime concern. So the layout and the overall determination as to where equipment goes is defined specifically about how are we going to operate the best way possible. So the beginning of the development process means that we have to go submit a plan. We have to submit an engineering study. So we submitted a study. The city comes back, and they come back with, hey, by the way, this is what our concerns and comments are. So we took those comments. We issued then another version. We then had the meeting. After the community meeting, it was clear-cut that there were a number of issues and concerns, including things that we heard about the topography of the site. So namely the fact that when you get to the site boundary, there's actually a low area. And the previous use of the building is a Bitcoin farm, which is diametrically opposed to how we do data centers. That had created a certain amount of noise, and there was concern. So we went and took the acoustical study, and we expanded it significantly. That was resubmitted as of yesterday, so it's not coincidental this. It takes some time to do that. We also modeled a number of scenarios, and we'll talk about some of those. As with everything else that we've done, all of the data will be made available. So once the city has time to review it and peruse it, then everything is made available to the public. We have nothing to hide. It's wide open. So expanded study. We don't conduct our own studies. We don't have sound engineers, and that's by definition, you don't drink your own Kool-Aid. So we've hired an independent third party. We got referrals locally because we don't do things externally. We like local groups to be able to do that. They're the ones who have conducted all of that work. So we just want to give some clarity on where that comes from. The findings are computer model generated. So if you're familiar with the way that certain modeling for development works, they're called digital twins. And it's essentially creating a computer replication of what the real world looks like. You take all of those existing model conditions and you put them into a computer model. And from there, then you generate results. So that's the method by which we've done this. And then most importantly, we've now got six scenarios that are modeled. Why is that important? If you just model the extreme, that's not enough of an indicator. With sound is momentous, so in a single instance in time, and it's also over a period of time. So what we did is we looked at what does it sound like today, and there's no Bitcoin operating there, so it's as quiet as it can be. So what does it sound like today? And then what are the operating conditions, including the most extreme condition that was modeled at 120% of use. So we'll talk more about that further, but that's now in the new updated model that we put forth, the new updated engineering study. As part of the development plan, and you can see this, we've considered a significant number of attenuation plans that are part of the program. They have to be put into place. So this isn't one of those where we get to make something up and then go, hey, we said we were going to do this and then it didn't happen. We're bound to this. So they involve multiple layers, and I'll just give a couple of examples to that. When you try to mitigate sound or attenuate sound, you start at the device itself. So the two sets of devices that are outside are chillers and generators. Generators are only for backup. That's it. The chillers, they make cooling happen inside of the data center. So we model what the sound looks like, and then we add attenuation kits, if you will. So in the chillers, it's a dampening package. And the generators, they come in enclosures. The next phase of that is you build walls around those. The walls have thickness, they have height. but then the materials are critical of what goes into the wall that's going to dampen all of that sound. So we've modeled all of those scenarios, and then we've designed in these protections, if you will, so that sound is dissipated. The final piece is a wall at the perimeter. I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to do that either. So yeah, I wouldn't build a wall. So the wall has to be of a certain height, certain width, and that's just an added feature. It also has other elemental components that are important. So these are layers that we're considering. So just so everybody knows what the scenarios are and the way we're thinking about the different considerations at a design level. We've also then worked with the city extensively on a voluntary self-reporting plan. We're evolving that right now. If someone said, why doesn't it exist? Because it never existed before. The city didn't have a plan like this. So we proposed that we would monitor ourselves. We would make all the data available. We would submit ourselves to third-party audits. And then what we're working on is an economic plan that covers remediation. Basically, if something was to go wrong, we are then required by certain dollar amounts to fix it. So as the city continues to work with us on that, that's obviously public, we'll make sure that that's clear. And that's the last item on sound. So now noise and sound. Water we talked about extensively. We don't need any water. And I'm not saying that flippantly. So the day one solution for any type of cooling environment is you have to charge a system. It requires some water. So just know that this site is permitted and enabled to use 1 million gallons a day. I don't want any of it. The reason is that it costs more for us to operate what we would call an ambient cooling solution, so one that is exposing water to the air. So anything that's evaporative, it's not efficient for the way that these computer systems need to operate. They just don't work like that. So we need what's called a closed-loop cooling system, which by definition, none of the medium inside there that we use to cool anything is exposed to the air. There's no evaporation. So the 200,000 gallons day one, it just rotates and cycles, and it's just like a radiator in your car. There's no dissipation. It doesn't go anywhere else. The daily water use is just for the people. There are actually people that work there. There's 60 to 100 full-time employees. There's other contractors that will be in and out. You benchmark that on office as in terms of a general office use. It's 2.5 to 4 gallons per person per day. And that's just normal going to the restroom, washing your hands, cleaning, things of that sort. So we need like 250 to 400 gallons a day. We don't need 1 million. We don't need any more than that. So the water use is significant. The closed loop system has been assailed by many, but this is a standard practice. And again, going back to it, we have to operate a facility that aligns with what the expectations of our investors and our customers want, which they don't want expensive things to be running. So closed loop is the most advantageous way, and it's beneficial because, again, there isn't a water source. And we can talk about that further as needed. So on the water side. Environmental impact. We've done extensive studies to understand what type of wildlife are on the other side of that culvert. We understand what the history of this area was, and prior to HP coming in 1960, what actually was going on in this region. The Garden of the Gods is a protected area above that in terms of the preserve, and most of the wildlife is protected itself by relocating up there. But you have a lot that trickles down and comes into that area. So one of the major things that's of concern to us is to frankly better separate our area of that corridor from that pathway. The wall does that. So the wall is also self-serving from a noise attenuation perspective. It adds another layer, but it also gives a visual as well as a physical barrier. It's on our side, exactly the building side of the stormwater culvert, and the height of that is prohibitive in terms of anything coming that direction or seeing anything or finding interest that's there. So on the environmental side of the table, it's not just sound, it's not just acoustical, it's thinking about the overall acclimation to the space and the environment that's around it. And that's gone into all of the design considerations for the site. Utility is a concern nationwide. We do projects across the country. We hear the concerns about my power rates are going to increase. You're coming in here, you're going to use a lot of energy, and what happens to my bill? The challenge is trying to explain complex utility terms when none of us even know how to read our power bills, and I'm not patronizing anybody. Reading your own personal power bill can be a pain. So the end of the day is as follows. We are under a completely separate set of agreements that are governed by entities that Colorado Springs Utility needs to adhere to. So it's called a tariff. Sum total is that we have to pay for anything that we need. So if there's a capital expenditure, we have to pay for it. It doesn't go to you. So we need upgrades, we pay for it. We need new infrastructure. Something's old, we have to pay for it. There needs to be maintenance, we pay for it. We also then pay a specific rate for the energy that we have. Something that's critical here to understand is that residential users, me included, I own a residence, residential users are problems for utilities because we don't use a lot of power. You may think you do, you actually don't. And the problem is that when you're a utility and you have to either generate power or buy power for a subset that doesn't use a lot of power, that's hard to manage those costs. CSU is a nonprofit. Their job is to make sure that they can manage that business as effectively as possible. When they're able to go get an organization that is a large load user, they need them, by the way, they have more buying power for the power that you need. That actually moderates costs and modulates costs. So I'm not here to have anybody say, oh, that's great, you're our savior. It's not it at all. But we're a benefit in taking a site that already has a large set of power infrastructure allocated to it. It has a large amount of power that is available to it. It's not being used today. So that's a loss to CSU in terms of dollars. We're going to help recoup that and drive that forward. So the end of the day is coming into an existing site that's being underutilized, we're able to support that. Traffic, we're not impacting traffic. At its heyday, Intel had 3,000 plus people that were coming in and out of there. We're bringing in 60 to 100 permanent employees. They don't all work at the same time. This is a 24/7, 365 shop. There are 3 shifts a day. So you have a nominal number of people that are there. So there really isn't a traffic impact whatsoever in terms of if any other building was in that space. So compared to what its heyday was, I know that jobs are a hot button and we wish that there was even more than there was. 60 to 100 good paying jobs, those are going to be created. That's the staff that's going to be there. Occasionally you have other maintenance staff that come in there, but the traffic isn't something, as we look at studies, that's really negligible. Jobs, as we just talked about, it's a segue. Data centers require a very specific subset of jobs. One of the reasons why Colorado Springs is that, frankly, the military complex here provides a number of highly trained individuals that are extremely understanding and aware and knowledgeable of what is required to manage a data center. So these are electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, these are operations staff. But you may hear, if you know anybody in the data center space, you'll hear that when you hire engineers, you try to find a Navy nuke. And the reason is that Navy nuclear engineers have a deep understanding of process, procedure, and protocol. That's why here. We don't hire externally. There's no one coming in from outside. Everyone has to be locally. We need people that are actually here, that have talent, that come in and can run these facilities and operate on behalf of our clients. The client themselves is going to hire technical staff that are IT-centric folks. These are network engineers, these are computer engineers. So there's a volume. We ourselves are responsible for 60 to 100. The client can hire from 15 to 30. It depends on what their volume and what they need. But those jobs are centric to a set of capabilities that, frankly, aren't just readily available. By the way, you can't go to college for data centers. So you have to acclimate from other experiences. So the economic impact is clear-cut. Strong jobs, we pay well, full benefits. Economic impact. This gets brought up a lot. I've had people decry this. It happened at the last community meeting. Somebody said that's not true. Well, the city will stand up to this. We're not getting any incentives. So there are states that have incentives. We're not getting any. There are none that are available to us, and we're not asking for any. I suppose there's probably something we could try to find, but there's none. And what I wanted to illustrate here is what this actually means by the fact that we're paying all of our full freight in taxes. So at the outset, this site has not been generating property taxes at scale. It will when we buy it. You get recalibrated, and this has a cost to it. And all of those property taxes annually then, by definition, go back to the city. The investment to develop the data center is between $750 million and $1 billion. That's just the facility. 60% of that are purchased items. That's sales tax. So that's a large volume if you could do the math on that number. Then the customer comes in. The customer is going to bring in between $2 and $3 billion worth of computer equipment. If you're familiar with how computers are installed in data centers, they're in racks. It kind of looks like a big refrigerator without the walls and the doors. Each one of those costs $12 million. That's just one. All of those are subject to sales tax. So 85% of that $2 to $3 billion is sales tax revenue. Then every 3 to 5 years, they have to refresh the computers. It means they need new ones. New ones get purchased and bought. Every time that's purchased, that's new sales tax revenue. And that's all aside from the jobs generation and what that does from a tax basis. So the economic impact is significant to this city. On the military side of the equation, this has been discussed a number of times. And the clients that come here are going to be AI clients, meaning that they're going to provide AI services. I've had people say to me, well, Jason, the military builds data centers, they build all of their own. That's correct. But the military also buys hundreds of billions of dollars of services from IT companies that we're all aware of. Those services come from sites and companies that live in buildings like this. The military cannot unilaterally provide all its own service. That's why it signs contracts with others. The locality of this site is critical. It's sitting away from the direct proximity of where those bases are, but it's close enough that latency, which means the distance in which that information is transmitted, isn't an issue. It's actually improved. So given that the military as a whole needs a significant amount of AI resources, as does every company in the world. Right now, you go research anything. AI and AI capacity is in a hockey stick that's unprecedented. If you're familiar, there's a company called Cerebras. They went public today. This is unprecedented. Their stock price was double the IPO price at the time the bell rung. That's because they're making capacity. So needing capacity for the military service is a local thing. It has to happen here. This is a prime facility to deliver that. And the companies that are looking at this site are ones that work with the military today. So this is a direct and linear line of service. Commitments from us. When we started this project, and we've said this all along, we're committed to transparency. We are providing all of our engineering documentation. We are providing all of our available resources to meet with folks. Like I said, we met with a number of community members. We've made ourselves available. We'll continue to do so. We have allowed for as much conjecture as anybody wants to provide, and we're here for it. And so the good neighbor component is critical. I said in the last meeting, and we maintain this, if the people that work here can't be happy and proud about the place that they work because we're not behaving well, then how do you go home? And we don't need somebody feeling like, you know what, I'm a pariah because I work at this company. So the good neighbor piece is critical. And we've met with the neighborhood, we've heard concerns, and we're working concertedly on what that collaboration needs to look like. As mentioned earlier, oversight and governance, we're willing to self-regulate. We understand that you can go online and you can find all kinds of examples of data centers that do X, Y, and Z. And so the reality is that there are tremendous means within the way that a data center operates to self-report things like noise. And the collaboration with the city is to ensure that they have a mechanism and they have a process and a protocol so it can be enforced, something that wasn't present before. As mentioned, the community crests are critical. So when people say things like, this is important to me, we're not blowing that off. And I know that we haven't done that, and there's some folks that maybe you may think to the contrary, but we're here for anything that comes this way. We know that not everybody's going to find this in agreement. We understand that. But we're going to hear you, and then we're going to provide responses, and we're going to even edit as need be. And then finally is the accessible resources. So on the flyers that are there, we've stood up a website. All of the information that we have published to the city as all of our submissions and approvals and everything else is available there. The sound study that came out yesterday, as soon as I get a green light from the city, that's going to be posted on there. You also find additional information. So we'll continue, and we've done this. We write blog posts, we put information out there. You can choose to read it, choose to not, but this is the nature of where we want to make sure that there's accessible information to what we do. So that's the overview. That's going to get us started. We're going to lead right into Mayor Southers is going to head us off in terms of questions.
Thank you, Jason. The people with microphones, would you kind of identify yourself? Got one, two. So let's start. We got a question over here.
Yeah, the May 2nd Economist magazine had an article stating that there will be profound chip shortage by late summer, early fall, and that there's nothing that NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, Hynix, Samsung can do about either the neural processors or the memories. And what I'm wondering about is, are your own plans taking into account the fact that there might be an AI nuclear winter in the second half of the year? And for the EDC, are you considering the fact that some data centers that begin to be built may not be finished?
So multi-layer question, and we'll start at the beginning of that in terms of there's about to be a shortage of a lot of things, and there is an existing shortage of a lot. So As we're talking about chips, there's a shortage of gas too. So as we're talking about chips, there is a shortage of the materials that are required to make these and also the equipment to deliver them. In the instance of this, all of our customers have already purchased and received their product. So the reality for us is that we're not in a speculative business. We have to have a customer that is already committed. And the questions that we ask in advance, and just so you understand the layers, is when you buy a chip, you don't just get a chip. It has to go into a computer. That computer then has to be installed into a rack, and then it has certain specifics of how that rack has to be oriented. That's an integrator that does that. So Dell is an example, Lenovo is an example, Supermicro is an example. For any of the customers, if they do not have a contract where they've already purchased the chips, they don't have a contract with the integrator, then we can't work with them. So you are right that there is the perspective of certain data centers, asking about data centers that are not going to be built. There are a number of projects all across the country. We refer to it as the fake data center. You have to have a lot of components to be able to deliver one of these. We just talked about, and I just mentioned, that $1 billion doesn't fall out of a tree. The investors have to be able to find value in the overall project. And so lining all of that up to make sure that that can be delivered, that's not an easy thing. That means that some projects aren't going to succeed. So there are some that won't make it. This one has all of the ingredients to be successful.
Question over there.
Hello, my name is Scott Lake. I am a resident of the city, and I'm I'm not officially an acoustics engineer, but I do work in the field. Are there any members of the city government that deal with the city noise ordinance that are present tonight? Because I would like to ask when the noise ordinance was last updated. It's using A-weighted sound pressure levels, which are designed for measurements inside of buildings, not outside. What should actually be used are C-weighted levels. And so my question to you, sir, is if C-weighted models have been used, because the low frequencies that are likely happening from the chillers will not show up very well with A-weighted sound pressure level. Secondly, I would like to use some data from your sheet.
Sure.
And this I would like to confirm with, it looks like Mr. Jared or Ms. Jared Miller from CSU Utilities. My understanding is the city's current power output is approximately 1,370 megawatts capability. Is that a correct amount?
Jared Miller, Colorado Springs Utilities. If you're speaking about the peak load, we generally talked about that about 1,000 megawatts peak load on the hottest days.
So this facility is planned to have what? Something like a 52.5 megawatt peak usage?
50 megawatts dedicated
50
to the
megawatts for 60 to 100 jobs. Let's talk about the economy of the usage of the city's power capability. I understood your point about needing a larger load, you get lower rates. Got
Sure.
that. Thank you. But let's see, Ms. Jessie Kimber, is she present? Ms. Kimber, do you think that a roughly 1 megawatt per job generated is a reasonable economic? I don't mean that to be sarcastic. It just seems like if we've got 1,300 or so megawatts available to us, if every company came into this town and asked for 52 megawatts of power, we'd have how many jobs?
Sir,
for the city?
if I can touch on that one.
And I
appreciate it. Ms. Abby Ortega is with Colorado Springs Utilities. She's going to explain to you exactly where the power is coming from and how that impacts our overarching grid. But to job creation, when we look at primary employers, which Radon is a primary employer that is servicing our national security architecture, that is a perfect type of incident. Really? Would you like me to answer the question? I'll pass. Clearly, I don't want to be. You don't want to be answered, so I'll pass it over to Abby. I am also the senior advisor for military affairs for Mayor Yemi Mobilade. I spent 24 years as a naval intelligence officer. My husband's here. He's a retired general. I just returned from the Association of Defense Communities. We are moving.
Hey, folks, it's critical, like, just let her talk and then respond. Like, it's okay. I mean, just let her talk and then you can respond. Jesse, please. Jesse, try again. Let her finish. It's just, I mean, you don't have to agree, but just let her talk.
We have 45,000 service members that are actively participating in campaigns across the globe. We are dealing with an adversary that is outmatching us in AI.
Folks, if you can't show appropriate demeanor, this can be a very short meeting. Please let people talk. You will have an opportunity to talk as well. Okay? Okay. Did you want?
We just don't want to hear bullshit.
And excuse me, there are children in the room, so it's important. There's children in the room, so relax. You'll have your time. Just relax. It's okay. We're here. No one's ducking the questions. Just let the people talk, please.
I'm happy to answer the question about power. Abby Ortega with Colorado Springs Utilities. Jared talked about our peak power usage, and this data center would use 50 megawatts. Per a large load tariff, they would purchase that 50 megawatts through a purchase power agreement, which would then be transported into our community. Again, all costs go to the data center. You are not impacted at all by those costs. And we have plenty of import power as we've just joined the Southwest Power Pool, which gives us access to power and transmission across the western United States.
Saying that as if other companies aren't paying for their own stuff too. You're acting like that's some big magnanimous gesture that you guys are not charging us for your data center.
Hold on. Yeah. Okay.
Let me address this in a different way. All of you all pay your power bill, which deals with our entire integrated system and the generation that we have. In January, we implemented a large load tariff, which specifically calls out a rate for customers such as this, anybody over 10 megawatts, which is generally not in our customer base. They pay for their own power. They pay for the impacts to any infrastructure to isolate those costs for all of you, because we recognize that nobody wants to pay the bill of a data center coming in that increases our load in a large way. And so they are happy to pay that. That's the standard across the United States, and that's what we have implemented here in Colorado Springs.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Ron Graham Becker. I'm a resident in the Chelsea Glen community. And this question that I have is for Mr. Green, and Mr. Walker can chime in on some parts of it. But and this is regarding self-reporting. I'm a noise nut. And I would say that based on something that you said previously, Mr. Green, that you're aware of, that you stated that, quote, they should never hear a thing. Excuse me. You should never hear a thing. You said that prior to the last meeting, I think. Sure. And so my question is, to include DP as well, what is planned in the event that an actual noise complaint arises that is over the legal limits
Sure.
in the code at this point?
Yep. So what we talked about is the way data center operations work is that all of the systems are monitored within the facilities. So do you want to? Okay. So all the power, the cooling, the security, everything is monitored at thresholds and levels. So we proposed to the city is that we would install sound monitoring equipment at the perimeter of the site. So the actual lot lines of the site. It's the furthest distance that we could possibly measure. We will tie all of that sensor information into what is known as the building management system, which is a software that records and manages the entire practice of that data center. The way this works is the thresholds create alerts. So you typically have a gradation. So let's say that 50 is your peak, okay? At 46, there's going to be an alert. Could be 48, you schedule that. At 50, there's then alert because you've reached your peak. And anything beyond 50 creates an alarm. It's not an audible alarm. Each one of those creates a ticket within the system. So there's a software system that audits it for date, time, and this is all reviewable because it's discoverable in terms of our clients. So what we're stating is we'll install all of this equipment at the periphery of the site. It will home run all of that data to the building management software. We will then make all of that data available on a monthly basis to the entire community in the city to verify. That includes the tickets. So we identify that there was a threshold that was breached. Then what we have to be able to do is have time to go fix it. So we're working with Kevin and his team is to understand what the thresholds are in terms of how do you remediate it. How much time do we have? What cost do we need to apply? And then what are those additional steps that are needed so that that issue is then fixed and solved? So that is a wholly separate program that does not exist today within the city. Kevin will talk about what the historicals are. This was brought up by Kevin and his team. There's other members of your community that have said, how would you do this? And we're suggesting this. It's something that we would sign in, we commit to it, we put money behind this so that there's actually capital. This is a voluntary thing. We don't have to do this, but we think that it's the only way that we can think to create accountability. Kevin?
Right. Kevin Walker, I'm the city planning director. And I think everything that Jason said, I would concur with. We are developing an expanded system by which we can monitor and require fixes. That's something we haven't had in the past. I think our experience with the previous operator showed what the weaknesses were in the city code as it stands today in terms of what the fines were, what our fixes were, what our ability was to make that better. And that's what we're working on. We don't have that in final form, but we will have that in final form before we approve or refer this matter to Planning Commission or City Council. So that will be also in the public. As soon as we're done with it, we'll post it and it'll be available.
Thank you.
Got a question over here? Yes, sir.
Tom Carter, ratepayer UPAC alternate. I see mention of the large load tariff, but has Radon entered into or negotiating agreement with the city or the utility on economic special development contracts?
No, we have not.
Yeah, Jared Miller, Colorado Springs Utilities. So on the large load tariff, that is a contracted rate, and we have not entered into a contract rate with Radon at this point, nor will there be provided any economic development incentives.
Because the new tariff that came out explicitly calls out that it says the tariff is the tariff, but that does not stop the utility from entering into any kind of economic special development contract that supersedes the large load tariff. That's one of the changes that was added.
Correct. This customer has been assessed and has been evaluated that there will not be economic development incentives offered.
Yeah. There are no incentives to us.
We've got some people with mics in the back.
Thank you. Paula Stecker. I am a leader of Faith Table, trying to support human dignity for all people in our city. Please understand there's a little bit of frustration. You may be a wonderful person, and I do thank you for the work of following up since the first meeting. But this is mostly military contracts, and excuse us if we don't have total confidence in the accountability. We've heard things. Hey, we got lots of questions. Let's keep going. Really. So, the accountability, the follow-up. You have a wonderful system for closed water usage now, and you've accounted for electricity, but what is our assurance that that won't change? And if it does, who or what will hold Radon and those political entities responsible? We hear things like supremacy clause. What's to top it?
So it's a great question, and it's not just because it's a great question. The data center evolution is exactly that. If you went and walked into a data center, which you can still, that was built 20 years ago, It's wildly different than how it's built today. We've learned a lot. Water isn't something that fits well in a data center in its pure form in an evaporative system. This is why we've gone to a closed loop system. The evolution, as the gentleman asked about chips earlier, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Moore's law. Moore went away a long time ago. Moore's is basically a representation of how fast the compute was going to double. When was the compute capability going to double? NVIDIA has done something that no one ever expected. It used to be that compute capacity would double every 3 to 5 years. It now doubles every 9 months. And what that means is that the power requirements and the overall management of those systems, which are incredibly sensitive, we can't go backwards. So we don't have an ability to say, hey, you know what? A water-based evaporative solution is going to be way better. Literally all of the thermal energy that we have to manage, it's impossible for that to be the state. So the engineering that's going into these facilities is one that's in a trajectory moving away from that. I think sticking with the water and addressing the biggest question, which would be, how do you stop us from just turning it back on? We've already let the city know we don't want the water allocation. We can't use it. It's not available to us. The systems don't allow us to just say, oh, you know what, we turn that valve on. The water isn't just sitting there available. So I think the checks and balances is that the overall community and civil infrastructure system, once you're receiving a certain allocation, you can't just go take more. And I will address something somebody may call out. There's a data center company that just was caught, if you will, having stolen 30 million gallons of water in Georgia. This city will stand up here and tell you that's literally an impossibility. I can't steal your water. It's not like 20 years ago of stealing your cable. I can't do that. So the limitations are with the infrastructure that's available and the commitments that we have, the resources. Folks, cat calling out when somebody's, I'm not doing that to you. Like, someone asks a question, I'll interrupt and go, hey, that was really, what are we doing? So just chill. So the ability to be able to go and actually use more than what's available just doesn't exist. I don't know if anybody in the city wants to comment on water.
As a city, we monitor the pressure and the use within our system. We monitor our customers' use. If there was excessive use, we would notice. We would look for a leak. And if they were to try and manipulate some sort of illegal connection, which again, not sure how they could practically do that, we would know about it almost immediately and be able to address that on site.
Well, how are they getting the water in the first place?
Got a question here in the back.
Yeah, my name is David Coates. Thank you all for being here to answer questions. Have you modeled and have you developed an effective means of monitoring sound as it may affect properties above the data center?
So it's a good question, and the sound model of which, and again, we'll publish the study, the sound model shows propagation at the property line, and the dissipation is at altitude. So as you go higher, it dissipates even further. So the ground level noise monitoring, if you will, is at its highest, and therefore, as we go higher in terms of the actual vertical, you're not going to get an increase at that state. So the model does incorporate that from a topological perspective.
But I understand that sound mitigation is basically a line of sight issue.
So sound mitigation is, and that's actually a really important point, is you want it at the source and then you want it at the line from there. So the goal is to try to attenuate, if you will, the most that you can at the actual device level. So generators, for example, they come in a sound attenuated enclosure that automatically reduces the decibel levels by 30 to 40%. You can buy them without that, but we have state regulations that won't allow us to do that anyway. So that's the beginning. The then next layer is that next wall and the materials in there. So you are right that there's a linear basis. The goal is that, and this goes into the development plan design, the walls are well higher than the actual devices, so they're not propagating above that wall. You're still going to get some leakage because that's normal, but it's not at an actual scale.
Let's get a question here.
Hello. I was wondering if you could pull up the environmental impact slide for me, just real quick.
Yes.
Can you explain the acoustical study? Because I'm a little confused on why a wall is your solution with the thermal heat that y'all have going and with the drought and the 200,000 gallons that you swear that you're not going to go over. what is that going to do to the wildlife and the ecosystems that we have at Garden of the Gods? You mentioned, hold on guys, hold on, I didn't get my question answered last time because people interrupted me, but you stated that Garden of the Gods is a protected state, a protected piece of land, and it is. It's very sacred to the people that live here. We love having it, and you have no data on how it's going to affect the ecosystems there and how the wildlife is going to move further out into the mountains and not stay in Garden of the Gods, and it's not going to stay protected. So I would like you to explain the acoustal study and then potentially tell me if you have data on how it's going to affect the ecosystems in Garden of the Gods.
So, and I remember you asked the question last time, and there's actually been additional thoughts, so I want to add to this. So what we did first was we identified what wildlife are actually in that area. And I think, as you know, the more congestion there is in that space, the more it drives wildlife away anyway. Go ahead.
That congestion is going to get worse as you bring your data center in.
Well,
you're adding to that congestion.
So
I want to know what you're going to do to fix it, or if you're going to even pour into the community to help our ecosystems and to help this drought, but you are going to no doubtedly increase by taking 200,000 gallons of water start off. That's 200,000 gallons that could go into our community.
So that's backtrack, because we started with wildlife, but we'll go to the water first. So the average residential swimming pool contains 20,000 gallons of water.
We don't have swimming pools.
Yes. No, you don't. So we actually did. So hold on. So I'm just giving you a frame of reference. So it's okay. No, we're good. Like, we can do this. This is okay. I'm here for you, so we can do this. So the reality is that the site is allowed for 1 million gallons a day. Now, I don't want you to sit there and go, well, just because you're not giving back 1 million. But the reality is, think about that 1 million a day. The 200,000 is needed one time. So from a conservation perspective, there isn't going to be an additional resource. From a drought impact perspective, we're not impacting the drought concerns because we're going to be subject to the same limitations that you are or anybody else if you have water controls. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So when you say that, is there somebody occupying that building right now? No. In this current day right now?
There is. Yeah, there's a
And they're allocating 1 million gallons of water today right now.
It's available if they wanted to use it. Correct.
Not using it.
That's correct.
So you are going to be using 200,000 gallons of water. Water is becoming a finite resource.
You're right. And again, it goes back to that any data center anywhere is going to need some water of some kind. So the reality is that in order to support everything that everybody does, we need data centers, and there's going to be some measure of balance. So it's okay. So the challenge that we have is that there isn't a solution to not use anything that has a water medium. This is the single most water conserving and the single most water effective means that can be used of any data center in the world. And again, this is our standard, if you will. So I give you one more, and then we got it. Yeah, go.
You say that this data center is important because we're like us as a world need it, but y'all are talking about how it's going to be used for military contracts. We don't even want the war in Iran. So why are you?
So fair, but let me also
It's making all of this stuff more expensive, and that's undoubtedly what you're doing to our community.
So let me explain, is that all military is not the war in Iran. So hold on. It's not. Hold on. National security is a thing. The resources that come out of this are available to the military who need that, but they're also available to public and private sector. AI is not a unilateral thing where you only use it one direction. AI is a set of resources. Everyone here has heard about the cloud. You know what the cloud is? It's not the cloud. It's all these different things. So the capacity is required. It is wildly behind what is actually needed for business, for public, for whomever. The military is a part of that, and they sign contracts for capacity. They are not going to be the sole user of this. It's got a multitude of uses. We should talk more. So, and I'm like, you and me should talk more. So let's do that, okay?
I would like Jesse to just talk a little bit about the military situation in Colorado Springs and what could be at stake if we don't have an appropriate AI resources.
So if I can talk about this with everybody listening and not yelling, I'm happy to do so. But you have to understand that we have 45,000 service members and their families that live here in Colorado Springs. That makes up 44% of our GDP. Those are primary employers who bring money in from outside of Colorado Springs, and those create a significant impact on our economy. Sales tax revenue, support to small businesses. I want you to think outside the military application of data centers. Your health care is maintained on a data center. My VA records are maintained on a data center. I won't talk over you if you won't talk over me. Do we have any veterans who have served in the military in the room? And would you please stand up so we can recognize you? Thank you for your service. What we are looking at here is a growth of Space Force missions. These are not boots on ground. These are the missions that are keeping our service members safe so that they can come home to their families. Data centers also support a lot of our industry here. It is national security, critical infrastructure, and these are not my words. These are the words that are being shared by the Department of War across. Again, perhaps the years in the military have taught me respect for others. I just ask that you allow me to finish.
Folks, please be respectful. A question back there.
Yeah, my name is Ann Garfield. So my backyard is facing the data center. So I want to know, what are your plans for light pollution, specifically because I know a lot of data centers have to have a lot more lights around the building to keep it more secure. So I know right now the lights are, pretty decent and there's no issues with that. What are your plans to increase the lights around the building and in that area?
Yeah, no, so we're subject to a lighting study, and we actually don't want light propagating out, and this goes to the wildlife component as well. So your question earlier, we don't want light propagating from this facility. So you have to have the light that is sconces that's propagating down, and then all the cameras are able to actually see in every direction. The sides of the building, the same thing. So you don't need light above a 20-foot level in any regard. And the 20-foot level is where the loading dock is. That's the height of the actual loading dock. We are not worried about something that's an aerial concern, if you will. So, drones and things like that, that's not the focus. The focus is on a physical level of entrance or penetration into the site. So lighting at the facility itself is not going to increase in a demonstrative level. She has a follow-up, ma'am.
Yeah, I think you just answered it. So you're not increasing any lights at all?
No.
You're keeping it the way it is?
Yeah, we want the light muted downward because it's not of anybody's interest for this to be like the Luxor in Vegas. Like, that's not. Yeah, so.
Infrared light?
No, we don't use infrared lights.
Over there.
I'm sorry?
You would need the lights, white lights if you got infrared.
No, we don't need infrared lights. So all of the city policies on lighting, that's not a requirement for us.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, sir.
Okay.
I think you're on. Try it again. No, he's not. Oh, there it is now.
Okay.
So AI itself is a rather powerful tool when it is limited of scope. But when we increase its scope, for it to pass its test, it starts lying and becoming deceptive. And we've seen the AI degrade over time as people put more money into it and make it bigger and stronger. In fact, on the way over here, the AI couldn't even answer a simple question of, was this PlayStation 5 backwards compatible? And it got that wrong. Like simple stuff like that. It's getting worse, it's getting dumber, it's lying more as we put more resources. I think we've hit a cap on how smart it can be, and a lot of the experts are starting to admit this. So it's just like, it looks like the bubble's going to pop soon, and and this is all going to crash and burn. So what do you have any plans for that?
Okay, so I want more questions like that. Okay, so there's layers to this. So, and I'm not deflecting, but I'll speak to this because I can talk to it all day. But we're responsible for the facility and the infrastructure. We build the buildings. But on the AI side, you're right. We're at the nascent level of this. In terms of a bubble, I don't necessarily know, but I can tell you this. Whether it's AI, whether it's cloud, whether it's whatever, the computational use, so the use of the computers, has a function. So even if AI starts to run into hiccups in terms of its feasibility, its usability, there are a myriad of other technology resources that require this. So whether it's robotics, whether it's crunching data for manufacturing, whether it's, we talked about healthcare systems and things of that nature. One of the things that, and I'll take you to where I have to answer these questions, is investors ask about obsolescence. So you're almost like giving me PTSD about having to sit in an investor meeting. They're like, well, what happens when they don't use it anymore? So we have to talk about the fact that there are an extensive number of uses for this. So even if, for some reason, AI becomes non-functional, it's not like the metaverse. You know, no one wanted to play in the metaverse, clearly. I don't know, maybe I didn't, you didn't. So the metaverse went away. As soon as that went away, all of that capacity and resource went to other services. So there's a future state for this, and somehow, even if it's not AI.
Back here.
Hi. I wasn't expecting to talk today, but I've heard a lot of disgruntlement. And I'm not on anybody's side, but just one little fact, daily at a golf course, they use 312,000 gallons at a golf course.
Every day.
Every day. So, no, so what I heard you say, I think I heard you say, you're using 200,000. 200,000 gallons once?
One time. One time.
How is, I can't listen to somebody who says it's a lie when there's no facts behind you saying that.
We just told you that the company just stole $30 million gallons.
Who said that?
In Georgia. He just said
Yeah, that's
this
not
is
us.
Colorado Springs.
Okay, let's move on over here. Do we have somebody?
Where are we at?
Have somebody over here?
Hi, I live right behind it. Information I haven't seen. Should this go through, what is your projected construction and demolition timeline? What am I going to have to put up with you taking down that building right behind my house?
Sure. So the demolition timeline is about 45 days. So construction is primarily inside of the building. So the exterior construction, yeah, exactly. So we're looking at a 30 to 60 day time frame for all of the generators to be set, the chillers to be set, and the walls to be poured. We pour the walls first, so everything is enclosed, and then they're set on the inside. I mean, once approval begins, then it could be as soon as this year. I mean, the goal would be to start when we're approved. So within, approval happens, within probably 30 to 60 days is when that work begins. The work is predominantly going to happen inside the building first. So we want to work on, there's a number of legacy pipes and remaining infrastructure that was left by. That just has to be removed. So, great question, is that the existing building itself has an outbuilding in the back, which is where the crypto, I refer to the containers as Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. So all of that goes away. The building inside of that goes away, so that small building. The outbuilding that's behind that goes away, and then the two adjacent buildings, those all go away as well. Okay, excellent. Okay, so that all those are going away. Then the walls are going to go up, and we only do work during the daytime. We don't work shifts around the clock. We don't work weekends, and we've done this in many projects. I mean, I'm more than happy to talk to you about time, and so we understand. Like when you have to live next to a project, that's a thing. So
I see on your pictures you're projecting a 43-foot wall around your generators.
So the generators are projected 43-foot wall. That's correct. Which is higher than the generators. So the wall has to be higher. The gentleman that asked about noise and sound that goes above that, you want the wall to be higher. So that's the projected height of the wall.
Over here.
Thank you. My name's Steve Mulliken. I'm a citizen of Colorado Springs. Moved here first time in 1980 when I was a young captain assigned to Fort Carson. I'm a vet, West Point graduate. I'm here speaking as a citizen about what's going on. And one, I appreciate everybody being here tonight. It's a tough thing for you, I know, to hear this. I want to tell you, I went through a personal change of attitude about data centers. I'm involved with a project on a large ground where data centers approached us a year ago. We had absolutely no interest. I changed my attitude about data centers when I realized two things. First thing is, a data center is the brain for your business, for your government. It's the brain for your universities. It's happening throughout the world. We will not stop it. The second change, where I went 180, was when I heard that China was open for business to data centers, and they're saying, we're open to you.
Hey, excuse me, let the gentleman talk, please. You can have a rebuttal. Just let the gentleman talk, please.
China was saying, we're there for you. We can do it cheaper than you can do it in the United States. Come to China. Does anybody want the brain of their business, their government, their universities in China? Second point. That turned me around, and I think it is happening, and we're not going to stop it, and we need it here. Let me
Please be
make
respectful. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me make one other comment. There was a lot of doubt about, there was a lot of discussion and debate about whether or not the military needed it. Raiden says this facility will be available to our military. 2 weeks ago, we had the Space Symposium. I think a lot of us envision our town as being, highly technical, and we're first in space. A guy named John Hyten, who I met when he was a colonel, when he commanded Shreveport Air Force Base and was the vice chair of the Combined Joint Chiefs, he said this. He said, we're putting up jillions of satellites, just generating a lot of data. We need to process that data. We need data centers. Our units will not be able to meet their mission unless you have them. So my plea to you is keep an open mind, because we need data centers. Our town needs data centers.
Folks, your lack of respect is really sad, frankly, Connie. John, back there.
Yeah, so you make this seem like you're doing the people of Colorado Springs a favor.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Speak up, please. I apologize.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You make this seem like you're doing the people of Colorado Springs a favor, but how does this actually benefit the people? It really benefits you and your billionaire friends who have military contracts. Because we will be paying for the costs when the AI bubble bursts, just like the .com bubble, and people will lose their jobs.
So it's the answer that I know is going to generate, I get it, but what do we bring? We bring tax dollars and jobs. And so the end of the day is that
every single one of these people is using one of these things. Tell them what AI really is.
So you actually can't, and so I'm going to explain why you can't. So, good Lord. So you can't for this reason. All the services that everybody depends on nowadays, they continue to evolve, and AI is not new, just so that you know it didn't just wake up like 12 months ago. AI has been present in everything that you've done for quite some time. It's been here. It's just now a named thing. All of your public services, the things that you depend upon, require AI and computer-based infrastructure. In the event that you have, and you can shake your heads and say no, and we can go have a dialogue, and I can go explain that to you, but this is the reality. You have a number of peace officers here, you have a number of service officers here. Go try to make a 911 call and get someone to your house without AI service. It's not happening. So that's well, then maybe you live in Oakland, so I don't know, that's my issue. So again, so the reality is that at the outset, the number one thing that we can do is bring tax revenue and not have any benefits whatsoever, pay our fair share. That then provides a significant amount of money to this community for things that everybody needs. Without the dollars, nothing's happening. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know of any other companies that are coming that are going to generate this amount of revenue. So that's the foundational.
Okay. We've got a gentleman here.
Okay.
Then she's going to be in the back.
You want to go back first?
No, let's go here first.
Hi, so good evening. My name is Bill Shaner. I'm a concerned citizen. I grew up in Colorado Springs, so a lifelong resident. And I have a question probably for Kevin, right in front of me here. So in your opinion, that 600,000 square foot fab that has not produced chips since the early 2000s, this is an infill project. It seems like when you think about efficient uses of infrastructure and capabilities in Colorado Springs, that is a very difficult building to fill. This seems like an ideal application as a citizen. And I don't have a feeling one way or the other on data centers, but this thing is a freaking elephant, and Garden of the Gods kind of seems like a bit of a high-tech graveyard from the late 90s and 2000s. This doesn't come along very often, and so I'm very curious to see from a city perspective how you feel about that, and is that a good application of an existing facility and campus that already is zoned for this type of application?
Sure. From a land use question, that question or the observation is correct. Obviously, this is a stranded asset. It's an asset for the community. There are no tax dollars going to maintain the road. Or they're generated out of there that are being used to maintain the roads, Garden of the Gods, or to build our parks, or any of those kinds of things. So one of the tenets of building a great city is to use your assets as effectively and as efficiently as possible. And getting this building into productive use and getting the taxes from it and actually generating very little in the way of traffic and impacts, I think is an ideal use. So I would agree with that.
I think we're back there.
Thank you. 2 comments and 1 question. You'll have to understand our angst of your responses because America has a history of corporations lying to citizens in settings like this. Think of Aaron Brockovich, think of PG&E. My other comment is we have survived since antiquity without data centers. We have not survived without water. So we do not believe, like no one believed PG&E, that what you're saying is correct. And my question is, if this is such a great thing and you're not going to harm anything at Garden of the Gods, why don't you just move this out onto the plains?
So it's actually a good carry-on question from the previous question about infill. So there's different types of data centers. All data centers are not the same. All restaurants are not the same. All food's not the same. All data centers are not the same. There are data centers in Colorado Springs. There are data centers throughout the state of Colorado. There's data centers everywhere. I was actually in an office in Colorado Springs in a meeting yesterday, and when you walk out that door, there's a sign and there's a technology company, and I pointed out to the people in the meeting, you do know it's a data center, right? And they were like, it is? I said, that's a data center. It's across your hall. So there's data centers all over the place. The reason why this location is a critical set of infrastructure and resources that data centers require. One of the biggest things that we haven't discussed too terribly much is that this site sits on a fiber corridor. So fiber corridor. So fiber is the way the internet works. So without a bunch of these wires that are now, we talked about, the gentleman asked about obsolescence earlier of chips. Fiber is a hot commodity. There's not a lot of fiber. Without physical wires, you have no internet. None. There's an old adage. The more wireless, the more wires. You can't just go and install more wires. So the city will tell you to open up a street takes forever. So to put in all of the infrastructure in a street to be able to go get more internet connectivity is extremely hard. The plains, fair statement, there's no internet in the plains. And trenching it out there and getting it out there is problematic. Hold on, goodness gracious, chill. So the backlog of this is that that site already has a significant amount of network infrastructure that is resident there that connects to other areas of the city, which means that when you add the power, the fact that that building was built for a purpose that a data center is natural inside of. Those of you that have had the displeasure of historically listening to Bitcoin miners outside, which is why you heard that, these computers go inside. The noise attenuation inside of that building is inherent. So the critical piece is that that site, because of power, because of fiber, because of proximity, and because of the service needs of this overall region, every major metro with over 125,000 people in it needs a significant number of data center infrastructure. That's why there. Follow-up is good. Go ahead, please. I got you.
Excuse my snark, but
Please, I like snark. Let's go.
the cost is probably less than our new ballroom, okay? So how about you're spending the money, not us, so create a new town by Lamar and leave Garden of the Gods alone. That's
Got it.
all I'm saying.
Okay. You can go. So just stand up.
Hi, my name is Sophia Hyman, and something that I wanted to point out is that on this environmental impact slide, there is nothing about the overall environmental impacts that we're seeing from AI. So right now on the Colorado Springs utility website, there is a quote on the water restrictions that says, due to higher than normal temperatures and low snowpack and quickly melting snow, we're going to be seeing less water by half the year.
Sure.
And my point isn't about water, but my point is that this is the direct impact that we've seen from data centers and AI, because there's a direct correlation right now with the data centers that we're seeing and the accelerating global warming. So my question is, what can you say about how this data center is going to be affecting the overall climate and what kind of impacts there's going to be?
Yeah, so the thing that you're driving towards is heat energy, basically. And the reality is that every single thing we plug in, every electrical device, creates heat of some sort. And so the terminology that people like to talk about, and they're reflecting back to Virginia, so Northern Virginia is the hub of all the data centers, is this heat island effect. There's so many data centers concentrated in an area that you have an elevated temperature above those. The reality is that in every edifice, every building that's built that has anything that's plugged in, it's creating heat energy. So what are we doing? I think that's the most important point. So the chillers that... I'm going to let you ask a question so I can interrupt. So the reality is that you look at a couple of factors that Colorado Springs is actually primed for. How do we use less energy? So the chillers themselves come with what are called economization packages. An economizer means that if the ambient temperature outside is at a certain level, we're able to actually assist the cooling, which means we use less energy. Furthermore, when you use a closed loop system, you're able to retain more thermal energy. So the end of the day is that there are plenty of data centers that you describe and many legacy ones that have not been retrofitted that are contributing to all of this. The only thing that we can do when we say we're going to need more compute power, with an insatiable thirst of this, is to try to make these buildings as efficient as we can. So what we're committed to, and we provide all the engineering and all the drawings, and we're more than willing to take questions on those engineering drawings, is showing that by buying the right equipment, operating it at a high level of efficiency, and ensuring that there are all of these different systematic approaches to the build, we're going to reduce that impact significantly. So if you took this building versus a data center that was built even 5 years ago, your environmental impact from thermals alone is going to be between 40 and 60% lower. And that's just an evolution of time and technology and opportunities that we have. Yes?
Right over here.
Hi there, and I apologize for my getting here late. I got in from Denver. I'm State Representative Rebecca Kelty. I have been at the Capitol for the last 4 months. Just got home today, thank gosh. But I was lobbied by your people at the Capitol. And since then, I have done a deep dive into, because it's my job to look into what's going on in the state of Colorado and what's good for it and what's not and what the people want. Now, I have gone through a lot of the things that you guys have said, and I have found many videos from other states about the closed loop system needing blowback, the sludge that's involved with that, with the noise problems in other states. I mean, everything you have listed on here, they have actually proven the opposite in all these other states. So I have a problem with that. I research everything I possibly can when someone comes to lobby me. That's my job.
Yep.
But what I have found far more things negative about having a data center, especially in a populated area, than anywhere else. So that bothers me a lot. So if I were to vote on a bill today for Colorado, I would vote no.
Understood.
With that said, and it's because of my research and everything else, but the other reason I would vote no, sir, is if you look at this room, this is a small portion of what the people want. And if you hear them, they don't want this. And that's my job. We're very close to my district. Not everybody, but the majority, and that's what should rule. So my problem is why is it, knowing that the majority do not want this in the location that you're putting it? They're giving you other options, they're giving you other ideas, but you keep turning them down. Why is it that you're not taking into what all of these faces, all of these people here are saying to you and saying to yourself, maybe this isn't the right thing. Maybe we should do it somewhere else. Maybe we should listen to the people.
Do we have a question here? Yes, sir.
No, I can respond. I got it. No, I got it. I can respond. So the reality is that there are everybody that's here that is dissenting against this. They're not for this. There are many people that are, and so you can shake your head, but I'm gonna tell you that we receive all of the feedback. So we receive all the emails. We hear everything that comes in. We've responded to these things, but we'll also tell you, and I'd ask you to respond to this, is you have constituents in your service district that are in support of this that won't speak up because they don't want to be targeted. And so the reality is, and this has been expressed to us, is that we unfortunately don't live in a space where there's a lot of opportunity for discourse. We can't have civil discourse. It's hard. And so there's people that are concerned about being able to say, hey, you know what? I actually don't have concerns about this. I'm willing to give you a chance. Prove to me that this is something that can assuage our concerns. We're struggling with a balance.
Then why don't we put it to a vote?
So, sir,
I'm sorry. Go.
And just a retort for that,
Yeah, please.
I have received several emails, several phone calls, from my constituents in my district,
Sure.
and actually other districts because they're not getting answers from other representatives, unfortunately. But I take everyone's call. I'm not just an HD16 or representative. I represent Colorado. That's what I believe in my heart. So I have received far more negative, people who do not want this than what people actually want. This is why I'm deep diving into this.
Sure.
I, as a representative, have to listen to it's not what Rebecca Kelty wants. It's not what you want. It's what these people want.
So, I think
You have a young man.
1 second real quick.
Okay.
So I think like with many other folks that have raised concerns, we've made ourselves available. I think we should talk about your research. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. I think let's go through and let's talk about what you've reviewed, because when you talk about like closed loop system operational challenges, there can be some. Depends on how you operate it. And when you look at other states, it's not just other states. You have a lot of data centers in the state of Colorado. There are most of them that are using ambient cooling. They're using a lot of water. That's been an issue. So I think it'd be good to have some dialogue. I'm open to talk to you. So yeah, here, I'll take that.
Young man here.
Hi, my name is Cameron Page. I'm the big age 19, so old I know. But I come here concerned on behalf of me and my peers, because as we enter into a worsening job market, things like AI really scares us. And you say there's 60 to 100 jobs being brought in, but ultimately this is an endorsement of a technology that would, at its best, hollow out the middle class, and at its worst, crash the stock market. My question is partially this, partially for Mrs. Kimber as well. But how can the city and Radon endorse this technology, given it's not going to actually economically benefit the people of Colorado Springs, but ultimately it's going to hurt us in the long run?
Yeah, so, and I apologize, I missed the beginning. You're 19? Okay, you're the same age as my son. And we literally have this question of, and I'm not saying this to, you can talk to my son, your future is different, to say the least. You know, for all of us, I'm old now, for all of us that have gotten to a certain point, you used to be able to say, I'm going to grow up to be a doctor, I'm going to grow up to be a lawyer, I'm going to grow up to be this. It's murky, and I don't disagree with you. I think the notion of what AI is, we're learning what that is. And I'm not here to advocate for it or against it. What I'm going to tell you is that technology across the board, has been in this evolution cycle for quite some time, and things are going to change. In terms of how does this benefit this economy, I don't know if anybody here understands how AI actually generates money. When you don't have an AI...
Would you please be respectful enough to let him talk?
So the way that AI generates revenue is that every single transaction, so every query, every ask of that system creates a token, and that token is monetizable. When those tokens are not generated in that locale, they're not up for tax purposes in that region. So when you don't have an AI data center, but you're using AI and you're using Claude or Gemini or what have you, and it's coming from another region, you're actually subsidizing another region. So that's impressive. Well done. So the reality is that there's a lot of this that's in evolution right now. And I think that as we had and actually had a discussion today with a couple of folks your age, I'm not going to tell you I have answers, because I don't necessarily know what that future looks like. In terms of our enablement of that, we can go back through every generation of data centers and say, as soon as you put a computer in somewhere, you're enabling something. Go ahead. You can follow up. Yeah.
I was going to ask, could I hear Mrs. Kimber's response to that? Because
Sure. I apologize. Yeah. No, I wasn't trying to take away from that. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the question. I'm a parent as well. I'm the Director of Economic Development for the City of Colorado Springs. We look at AI and which jobs will be coming in and out of the market, and we work with our K through 12 and our higher ed universities to try and ensure that our up-and-coming generations have the skill sets that future companies and industries need. Does that answer your question, sir? I can go further if you'd like. Okay.
Mr. Murray?
All right, if you don't mind, just a moment of your time. You elected me for 8 years, okay, to serve you. Relax, please. Let me finish. Okay, while I was a city council member, I supported you all in stopping the apartments at the end of Garden of the Gods because I was worried about the urban interface. When you came to me and said you were upset about the noise from the Bitcoin operation, I went down and told them I was going to turn them off if they didn't shut it down, the noise. They put multiple barriers behind it. and I talked to the community, and they said they were acceptable with it. At the same time, I voted for a Ford amphitheater only to have the city turn around and give a variance to it. I understand what distrust is, okay? And the question here is, how do we get trust back into the system? Now, a lot of you are mixing your metaphors.
We want to get paid too, just like this.
Okay, stop, just for a minute. Okay, you're mixing your metaphors. This data warehouse is not AI anything. It's a warehouse. Listen to me, please. You requested this city to accumulate large amounts of data through police cameras. Do you know? Hold it. Please, just a minute. I will stop. I've got 2 solution sets that I would like to present to you. Okay, the only way I can search the data on that video is something that I can, once I get to the storage units. But back to solutions. Done with the rest of it. We have too many comments, too many ideas, too many things thrown out. Could you all get together and get 3 to 5 people who could act as a committee, okay, marry up with Raiden here, and monitor the situation as it develops and answer back to you? You don't trust each other? All right, step two, as a suggestion, I want it as a matter of record, step 2 is we have an inverse situation here. We have a lot of resources going to small populations of people being hired. I think it would be advantageous for all of us to turn it around and give discounts to any city service, hospital within this community, okay, to use this service to benefit you as individuals. I'm done. Thank you.
You've done nothing to earn our trust.
Okay, let's go back there.
Hi, my name is Rudy Feltz. I'm on the east side of town. My question was more about long-term accountability. You said it's going to be 60 to 100 permanent jobs, skilled military veterans and whatnot. A quick look through your website and whatnot, you guys aren't military contractors. So how's it going to work? You keep the data center under your name, and when whoever, Raytheon, NG, whoever comes in and does whatever they do, you take responsibility and culpability for if they screw up? Like if they do something wrong with the place?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So here's the layers. So we own the building, we own the infrastructure, we operate it. The operations are a responsibility in terms of the contracts, if you will. The day-to-day staff that gets hired, they get hired through a partner organization of ours. That partner organization has to hire locally. So we then bring in a group that has to go manage the day-to-day. That's where all those jobs are hired into. It's actually, and you kind of gave me a lead, is that's a benefit to permanence, because those are large-scale organizations that support a variety of different facilities, not just data centers and whatnot. We've found over the years, we used to hire all the staff ourselves. We found that was an efficient model. The most efficient model is for us to have a management layer and then have that organization essentially subservient to us. So it's all contractually based. The client itself doesn't get the ability to go and muck up the facility. They are under a bunch of performance contracts, and that includes the way that they install equipment, the way that they perform at that site at the computer level. Those folks that are hired are then there to manage, to make sure that all the power, the cooling, the space, the security are up to snuff. So it's a series of layers.
Okay.
Far back there.
All right, I've got 2 different questions. We've talked about transparency and whatnot. Where can we find any of the information on the city website? I got an email from Daniel Sexton. He's like, oh, go to this website, put this project number in, and it basically had an address, right? Like all of the noise studies. I know the current one's not there, but I would like to see the previous noise study. Was never able to find it.
Okay.
So that's question 1.
So let's do that one real quick because it's twofold, and then go to your second one.
Yep.
So, Kevin.
Oh, that's relatively, it is on the website. It isn't the most intuitive, so we can do better. But if you call Dan, or you call me, or you call somebody from my office, we can walk you through that, and we will get you that. And the noise studies are are there. You can have them.
So, I mean, following up to that.
So following to that is on the QR code that's there.
Is there it would be really nice to have a simple link for people to go to.
Yes.
Because I can call you, and she can call you, and he can call you. We don't need 18 million different people calling you to find this. This should be,
Right.
You're saying we're being very transparent. We're publishing all our studies, and we can't find it.
We'll go to work on making that easier for this particular project, so we can find it.
In parallel, that QR code, we've stood up a website. So we stood up pages on our website, and we're populating with all that information, so you have that.
I went to the QR code that you have on the flyers here, and it's very generic. There's none of the specific information about the Colorado Springs site here on that
Correct.
website.
So we have to have an order of operations. So we submit everything to them. They have to review, and then we can publicize that. So like the noise study that was delivered yesterday, they've got to have a few days to review that, and then we can post that. So you're going to have an adjunct link that's on there that's going to have all of your Colorado Springs specific information. So just give me a couple of days, basically. We stood that up very quickly. So I'm committed to you. That's your transparency on our side.
And
this woman over here.
Hold on, he asked for two. So, yeah.
So and then the second part, you're talking about, okay, we're doing this build out, and there's going to be all this sales tax revenue. NVIDIA, there's not the NVIDIA store where I can just go buy these giant servers here and, oh, my sales tax went to Colorado Springs. How is that sales tax revenue actually helping us, Colorado Springs, as opposed to wherever these are coming from?
Who wants to talk about how sales tax revenue works?
Use versus sales. If you buy it elsewhere, there's use tax.
Right.
I'll explain how I need the city to speak to that, and I can speak
So
to
the
it.
question is, how is it benefiting the community or our city of Colorado Springs?
Well,
Sales
on the slides,
all those sales
on the
tax-
slides, he's saying we've got to buy all this equipment, all this stuff, and there's going to be all this sales tax that comes in.
Correct.
And that was the specific benefit I'm asking about, is how does that sales tax money actually come to us, since, again, there's not the NVIDIA store where I go buy all the GPUs here in Colorado Springs.
Okay, well, there are systems by which the sellers have to charge tax, just like Amazon does, for anybody who sells into Colorado Springs. So we have systems that track that and audit that, and then that money will come to us, or we will charge somebody for it. And then once that's used, I made this point a little bit earlier. Right now, there's no money coming out of that, but we have roads that go there. We have utility lines and water lines and sewer lines and creeks and all those kinds of things that are servicing this site without a dollar coming in. And so that's the advantage of using your assets and not stranding your assets. And so that's the way the city benefits.
So basically, it's your destination. So and you're right, I'll tell you, and I'm not trying to be funny about this, there's a lot of companies that wish there was an NVIDIA store because they're rationing their chips out. It's hard to get that. It's where it lands. So if we go buy an NVIDIA set of chips, which isn't what we're going to purchase, but our customer does, for example, and it comes out of Sunnyvale, California, all the taxes that are paid is when it lands here. So all of that invoicing, all of that is subject to all accounting rules and laws. That's how that actually lands. So it doesn't matter. If I'm buying a bunch of pipe and wire that has to be installed here, and as soon as it's delivered here, that's where the tax base comes from. So anything that is literally delivered here, that's where your taxes is accounted for.
Over here.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, my name's Bea. I'm a military veteran. I've been here since 2005. Actually, sorry, I moved away in spring of last year, given up on Colorado, actually came back because my heart is here. And I just want to say, I think I'm torn as a veteran knowing the use that you want to intend it for, but as I listen to everybody, the issue is the location. And the issue is that when you are tied to the military mission, you become the priority, not the residents. You become very comfortable, and you are hiring locals, but if I understand it, you're a California company, correct?
Correct.
So we have let California developers, California companies come in here and benefit, and I just disagree with the location. I understand AI. I don't think there's anybody in this room who hasn't picked up their phone today and asked a question. We all use it, period. But I, myself, don't use ChatGPT. There's a lot of things we can do to minimize it, but it is coming. But it is just the accountability. It's like saying, let's vote like the politicians do. Let's do a raise and vote on this raise for ourselves. I mean, that's what your accountability is. If you're the only people doing that and there's not an independent group of people that involves the community, not just city council members and politicians and your company. So that's number one. The other thing I'm concerned about is you have this water requirement at the beginning. What about maintenance? What about leaks? How often does it have to be changed? None of those things have been answered. You say there's 60 to 80 regular full-time. What about the part-time? You say that you're hiring local people. What about the 500 plus construction workers? What I'm seeing in Texas is pictures of RV and tent camps and junk everywhere of these workers that come in to get a get-rich-quick thing who's on to the next data center somewhere else in the company. What can you do to ensure that you're vetting these companies and that if they're living on our streets, you take them in your own parking lot? Because we have enough homeless to take care of. So that's an issue, a practical issue.
Can you address those questions?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
I have one more, but go ahead.
Yeah, so let's start with the construction jobs. So these are union jobs on the construction side. We only use union labor. The hall itself has already validated that there are 125 to 150 union electricians that are local to this region that are ready to work on that project. On the actual construction side, it's pipe fitters, it's drywall, it's all of those jobs are localized jobs. It's what part of actually the vetting process. The travelers that you're describing and what you saw is Project Stargate in Abilene, Texas. Very familiar with that. There are 1,800 electricians. I don't know if there's 1,800 people in Abilene. So you're right, there's a challenge to how that works. This is a different environment. So that's number one vetting in that case. In terms of the way a closed loop system operates, and this goes back to something that was brought up earlier, is leaks are actually checked through an incredibly sophisticated system. It's a braided detection that goes and wraps around all of the pipes. It monitors for over 21 different variances and considerations. It begins with moisture. So well prior to a leak, anytime there's any increased level that is detected by that system, it will home run to within an inch of where it's located on the pipe, and the on-site staff goes there. We don't experience leaks.
So you never empty this for maintenance. It never goes bad. It never has to be completely replaced.
So it does not have to be completely replaced. And the only time that you run into, and it's mechanical, things are going to break, there's going to be challenges. But what we do is you segment the piping infrastructure. If this was just one big pipe, that's a problem. And it's a problem not just because of the service. If we are not able to keep this thing going, then the computers fail, and it's called thermal runaway. They get really hot. It's a bad thing. So what you have is segmentation of pipes, and you have redundancy. So in the event that there's a problem, you're only managing a very small portion, 12 to 15 feet-ish. So instead of having to navigate hundreds of feet of pipe and the entire volume of water, you're able to turn off those valves, segment it there, use a secondary loop. These are all protections that are in place to keep it going.
And the wastewater is being monitored by who as far as what you're dumping back into our water?
we don't dump anything. So
Okay.
so that's not an option for us.
Okay, and then the 200,000 gallons, which is, you're saying 20,000, is a swimming pool. What is Colorado Springs Utilities' involvement to make sure they don't do that all in a day and our west side pressure drops to nothing?
It's a good question.
Are you graduating that over a period of time, giving us some warning, doing it in non-peak hours, et cetera?
So again, Abby Ortega, Colorado Springs Utilities. Our system is designed for peak flows. In the event of a fire, obviously you're using more than probably 200,000 gallons in that day. And so our system is designed to withstand that. For some perspective, the 200,000 gallons that he's talking about doing for his first fill is about what 2 households use in a year, and he's talking about that for a one-time fill. Our water supply system can withstand that.
In the back there.
Hello, sir. My name is Robert Lohman. I appreciate you coming out. You've been getting the 5th degree through this whole thing, so you got a tough job. I have 2 questions. One is for you, and the other is for the city government. So the first one is, with this closed loop system, you said it works a lot like a car's cooling system. I'm not any mechanic, but I've worked on a few cars. If you need to replace a lot of things, you might have to completely refill that whole system.
Sure.
How often would that happen? Because you say it's one-time use on day one.
Yeah.
But it's going to have to be refilled. Is that going to be every 2 years, every 1 year, every other week?
So it's a good
We
question.
would like to know.
you don't ever want to refill this entire thing. So the only scenario in which this has to be entirely flushed out and replaced is a catastrophic scenario. And what would that be? That would be if there was a massive pipe failure and we were not able to actually valve this thing off. So that's part of the checks and balances in the system. All of the chillers are in a redundant configuration. So what you have to think about is that you have what's called a header. So basically think of a single unit and they all feed into a single source, and then the piping comes out of there. What that means is that no one chiller that is tied into that piping system can create a condition which would catastrophically fail the system. And the monitoring that applies, the software that monitors this is acute. So for us, going back to something that was brought up earlier about sludge and deposits, water is the most challenging thing to manage, which is why this is a mix of about 30% glycol and water. Water into itself creates pitting. So on the inside of any galvanized pipe, water over time, because of the minerals in it, it actually pits out. That's where sediment occurs. At the chillers, what you have are filtration systems with a management of how the actual gallons per minute and the quality of that glycol water mix is operating. We bring in third parties that actually administer that, so we're not solely responsible, and all the teams on site are trained to manage that, because the loss at the business level of a disruption that will require replacement is actually catastrophic to us. So the checks and balances, we can go into a lot more detail, but just to give you, there's a significant amount. He has another question for government, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. My second question actually goes on along with your catastrophic scenario. If there is a catastrophic scenario, how are you being held accountable by the government? And if it is a financial penalty, that doesn't seem like a good enough penalty because you guys have billions of dollars to bail yourselves out.
Okay, so just real quick, describe what, so when I say catastrophic for us means that in that piping configuration, like the piping is completely destroyed, which I don't know how that would be. Describe like what's the catastrophic situation that you're considering?
Fire. A fire.
Fire, okay, so fire is a great question. We don't even want the fire department coming to our building. And I'm gonna tell you why. The worst thing that can happen inside of a data center, no offense to the fire department, is a hose with something that's spraying things. So the way that this works is you have a fire suppression system that is called a dual interlocking pre-action dry pipe system. So it works as follows. All of the piping, and you can see the heads that are in here. If you look up, you see sprinkler heads. Those heads tie into a piping system. In this room, it's what's called a flooded system, which means there's already water inside of those pipes. So if someone wants to get out of pocket or there's something going on here, those heads are sensitive to heat. They melt, they release water all over this room. We can't do that in a data center. So the pipes have nothing in them at all. You then have to have, this is where we talk about pre-action. So you have a pump system that is sitting there charged, waiting for two phases. This is the dual interlock. So in the event that something goes on in the data center that could create particulate matter, I don't even need smoke. We have a very early detection system. It's called VESDA, and the building is zoned. So each one of the areas where the computers live is broken up into discrete parts. So for a 60,000 square foot hall, it's going to be broken up into about 5,000 square foot sections. Inside of that 5,000 square foot section, if there's a particulate matter detection, that sensor that's above alarms the entire system. Nothing floods the pipe. That alarms to all of the staff that are inside to go investigate right away. In the event that there's now a heat condition that hits 147 degrees Fahrenheit, that will melt that bulb, then it floods the pipe. The only way that that can actually...
Do you mind if I interrupt you, sir?
No, please, go ahead.
I appreciate learning about fire suppression. I think that's important. I don't want a fire. However, where I'm coming from is that if there is a catastrophic failure, such as a fire, how will you be held responsible by our local government?
That's fair. Okay. John, I don't know who speaks to that. Who?
Mr. Southers, do you?
I'm sorry?
Answer his question. It's accountable.
If someone negligently causes a fire, people who are harmed by it can bring a lawsuit against those who negligently build. If your neighbor negligently builds down your home, you can sue them. Sorry you don't like the answer, but that's the answer. What we got here?
Okay, where are we at?
Yeah, right here, sir, in the green shirt.
Yeah, I'm John Sturgis. Could you put the environmental slide back up again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just have a question on that last line there. I want to focus on minimizing heat island effect.
Sure.
So, first law of thermodynamics, you can neither create nor destroy energy. You can just change it into another form.
No question.
So that's basically what you're doing with the chillers. And the question gets beyond, what is your the PUE of your machinery and how effectively you're economizing the heat that's being rejected. Have you done any modeling on what the actual heat island effect is? Because it was a study by Cambridge looking at 6,000 data centers. Granted, a lot of these were probably older in design,
Yep.
but some of them were raising the area temperatures by 16.4 degrees.
Read the study.
So, I mean, even if you have really efficient coolers, you're still going to have a heat island effect. So have you modeled that? Have you considered things that you could be doing for that site that might in some way mitigate what the heat island effect is? But when you're talking about a 95 degree day here in Colorado Springs, which we have a lot of them in the summer, 5 degrees for that neighborhood, that's pretty significant.
So it's a great question, and heat islands are a thing. I've read the study. I'm very familiar with it. The 16 degrees is tied to Northern Virginia, and I'm not isolating it. You're exactly at that point. There are a number of technology advents that have required, this is why we talked about closed loop, is that we're going to different systems, is that the most recent release of NVIDIA technology actually requires a higher temperature. So what we have to supply cool to the overall space, what's called the supply loop, and then the return loop are at different temperatures. So you imagine you're supplying cool medium, it picks up the heat, it returns back to the chillers. Those are wildly different temperatures. The wider of the difference of those temperatures is called a delta T. So he mentioned a term called PUE, power utilization effectiveness. So essentially, how much power do I need to the data center to get 1 unit of power to the computers? It's a measure of how efficient you are. So what are we doing? The newest chipsets allow us to actually operate at a much higher temperature, which means there's much lower heat rejection. The challenge before was that the computers required a very specific temperature. So the ambient in an average data center that was built anywhere before the last 2 years, the temperature inside where the computers live needed to be between 68 degrees and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. We can now actually supply air in the ambient sense at 140 degrees. It's hot. That's a complete change in difference, which means that now the return, the hot that returns back, is in a much narrower band. It means the chiller doesn't work as hard. It's not rejecting as much heat because it won't have to cool as much. So to the point of how do you reduce heat island effectiveness and heat island impact, it's the fact that, I'll be honest with you, we're just in the right place and right time. Because if we were having this conversation 3 years ago, I'd have to have a very different conversation with you. The chillers couldn't support it. The overall systems couldn't manage it, meaning the computers themselves. We are committed to marrying what the clients are asking for, which is this technology difference.
So I guess the question was, as you modeled it, how much of a heat island effect can we expect?
So
It's greater than zero.
Oh, it is greater than zero. And so in terms of an actual island model, I don't have a formal model for you yet for one reason. We don't know which chips are going into that building yet. And so the determination of that is our design and engineering at the last mile, kind of the end, is once the customer is defined of what they're deploying. Somebody said, yeah, well, of course we'll model it, and we'd be more than happy to, and we'd be more than happy to release that, just like everything else. I'd be more than happy to. It depends on the sequence and cycle.
No.
Well, I understand something. Every single building in that area is a heat island. And so the reality is, so is your house, so are the other data centers. This is a cumulative effect of just where we happen to live. Who's back there?
Hi, my name's Nicole Becker. I'm a resident of Old Colorado City. And my question is for Colorado Springs Utilities. If there is a really hot day and there's a power surge, so everyone has their air conditionings on, how is the city going to respond? Like turning off the data center, for example, or limiting how much power they can access so that the community can actually access the power that they need. And I am especially concerned about that if they are going to be providing AI services to the military, because who's going to take priority there? Is it going to be the people, or is it going to be the people using the AI?
So as Colorado Springs Utilities, we of course plan for peak demand, peak loads. To date, we have not had to have blackouts in that. We do ask people to use energy wisely and not use energy as much during that peak period. In terms of service to the data center, if we had to take energy down, that's why he has the backup generators that he has talked about. We don't prioritize which customers we serve. We don't actually have the capability to do that within our system. And so we serve our system as a whole, and we develop our system to serve the peak load regardless of what it is.
One added comment to when you talked about prioritization, the service of the resources, so let's say it's AI service out of that facility, is not then a government mandate. So the military doesn't get to go to the company that provides the service and say, now you are then subsequently required to sign a different agreement with the utility. They don't get priority. If this was then a facility, let's give an example. Let's say that the DOD took down this facility as their own. They would then sign their own agreement. That would be what you're describing. We are just literally like every other citizen. And that's why we have to install the generators that are in there. In the event that there's a disruption, that's why we have backup generators. That's why we go through the state mandated processes for air pollution. Like, all of that is in place so that there is backup.
Ma'am, right here.
Yes, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
For many years, I was a contingency writer for computer systems. And I have two questions. Number one is for the city, because the city of Colorado Springs, after 4 p.m. and on weekends, I've already increased our rates. And that I find is very unacceptable. The second question is, as a contingency writer, what are your contingencies? Because I realize that you are a developer and a creator of the building only, not for the entities that are going to be in there as your customers / your clients.
Sure.
Do you have control over that, over what they are bringing into your facility and the programs that are going to be presented from them to you by design?
Yeah, so it's a nuanced question. So in terms of our control, we have very specific requirements for what they can install, and that's at the computer level. In terms of what they can serve and what they can operate, the only things that we're able to place on them is that they're not able to conduct illegal activities. So foreign behavior, but that's not. And again, this is just in the simple contract. However they want to, whatever service they're going to propagate and they're going to deliver. What I can tell you is that the customers that are going to be delivering these services, it's the standard for any other what we would call AI compute. Is that they're going to then make available the resources to access models and to access data. Our ability to control the nuances of that, we don't step down to that layer. And it's not abdication of control, that's just separation of church and state in that space.
Well, I get that, but the people that are coming in as your customers, are they going to have a greater demand on our power that's going to increase the need? Or is it totally within your facility?
Oh, that's solely, they cannot exceed the power we give them. That's a great question. So when that building is sized for 50 megawatts, that customer, so they actually have what's called a service level agreement in their contract.
That, yeah.
Okay? They can't exceed 80% of any breaker. So that means that power is there. If they try to use more, it shuts the breaker off. They can't, so there is no more power. They can't use any more than what's available.
So your contingency is within your contract?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. At their level for that, I misunderstood. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
That they are absolutely contracted at a maximum level. They cannot exceed that. It's called burst rate. They do not have an ability to burst above. So like on a network, when you buy internet service, you can burst above because the capacity's there. Our systems actually shut off. So at the level in which if they tried to go and install systems that exceed the nameplate, those systems will shut down. They can't use it. So that is the contingency. And that's because of National Electrical Code. We end up in a wildly challenged state if we were to allow that.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you would.
Yes.
I get that. I totally get that.
Ma'am, I want to give utilities a chance to defend themselves.
All right.
Your rates are actually not going up in totality.
What I'd like to say about that is you should know.
I've been here since 5. You've ignored me. We have 5 minutes left. I don't want to talk about the utilities anymore. I want to talk about the issue and be heard.
You should know that the large load customers like this enter into the large load rate, and there is.
It's okay. We have the right to not have you just continue talking about things that don't have anything to do with why we're here. My name is Hannah. I live in this community, and I have something to say. Please, we have 5 minutes.
Actually, we don't. We were going to.
Ridiculous.
No, it's not, ma'am.
John, Mayor. Give her. Let her talk.
No, don't.
We want this gone. We will not see this. You're not here listening to the
It is 7:25.
Just let her talk. She's going to make a fool out of herself. Just let her talk. Well, let her talk. Go ahead.
Hello. All right, let's all calm down. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I kept my hand up. I'm not gonna fight you on this. My name is Hannah Kornblatt, and I am a resident of Colorado Springs, and I'm here tonight because this proposal raises serious questions that haven't been answered and will set precedent for the future. And our community deserves answers before any approval moves forward. First, there was no public process. Radon found a building, approached the city, and asked for a green light. Residents had no seat at that table. That's not how decisions with this level of neighborhood impact should work. Second, we don't actually know who will be operating this facility. Radon is a real estate middleman leasing to an undisclosed AI company. We are being asked to take the noise, the heat, and the risk without knowing who is ultimately going to be accountable. You are saying, when we figure it out. This is not a figure out. Before this gets approved, we need to know what's going on. You're not being clear on the life cycle of the cooling system. I understand that AI is the future, okay? But this does not mean that this is necessarily the right day AI or now. Third, as mentioned, this site was a Bitcoin mining operation from 2018 to 2020, and I can say that almost every resident that I remember remembers that noise. The city had a limited response to them then. What is the plan going to be this time? Does the older infrastructure not pose other limitations at a higher risk? And fourth, Denver just paused the new data center approvals to conduct proper environmental and community impact studies. I'm asking that the city of Colorado Springs do the same. We deserve clear regulations, guidelines as we move forward into new technologies. The questions I want on record tonight are, what is the city's vetting process? Were other uses for this building even ever considered? And what community benefit agreement is being required in exchange for approval? This is one of the largest projects that Radon has ever taken on. They are converting an existing building into a data center rather than building from scratch, which you said earlier, the technology is improving. Why wouldn't you build something new that is going to have the most optimal efficiency rating for our state? Faster faster to market, which is using existing infrastructure, and that's what they're doing because they're a real estate company once again. They're from California. They're not from here. They do not have our best interests at heart. They are building something to sell it like flipping a house. The burden is on the city, not just Radon, to justify why this company, why at this location, why next to a residential neighborhood, and why is it the right choice for Colorado Springs. And I am not hearing any real benefit for this community. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Green, would you answer her question and then make some closing remarks? We're at 7:30.
The city needs to answer. Radon's the real estate company that you're hiring to come in and do stuff in our town. I want you to give an answer.
So I'll try to answer at least a couple of these. First of all, again, Kevin Walker, City Planning Department. This is a private property. We respond to private property owners' requests for approvals. So this is not a city project. We didn't vet people. We don't go through that process. What we do is accept people's ask and try to work their way through the process so that we try to make sure that the land use fits, and that's where we're at right now. We're in the middle of that process. So.
Other people should be other companies and other AI technologies should be allowed to put in for this bid as well. We should not be taking the first.
But this is a private property. It's their private money. The city's not investing money in this. The city is doing it. So I think that's the answer to that particular piece of the question. We don't have any ability to get somebody else to do this. This is a private property. They're asking for the approvals. We're responding to that.
You want to wrap?
We should be done. No, she left. She left. She left. No, she left. So she left.
Okay, wrap it up.
So okay. Okay, so it's actually very simple. This is a private transaction. The building is owned by a private entity. So it's.
Why are we not making money?
So. Hey, you can't. I'm not patronizing anybody. I think we're done. I appreciate everybody coming out. It's 7:30. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening. Thank you. I'm done. Yep. We're done.
Subculturally down here. Very anti-military.
Thank you and today. If you all wouldn't mind leaving out through the back, we have multiple doors on different sides. We appreciate you coming and hearing about this. Have a wonderful evening.
As he